I'm going to start with Paul. Paul, you have 3 minutes for an opening statement.
The microphone's on.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting this event. I'm Paul Andrews, Kitsap County Auditor, and as a servant leader, I have 27 years of experience serving the people of Kitsap County. I'm a certified elections administrator. I serve as a co-chair on the State Licensing Committee. I'm a board member of the Washington State Association of County Auditors, and I serve on the Kitsap County Finance Committee. The job of auditor is very detailed, and experience matters. This is not the place for on-the-job training. And many of the programs I've implemented that promote transparency, accountability, and accessibility have become the model for how other counties conduct business. With an annual budget of just under $5 million and a staff of 30, over the last 4 years, I've been responsible for accurately managing $1.6 billion of your taxpayer money, receiving the best audits the county has seen in over 12 years. We've recorded over 300,000 documents, preserving them in permanent record, and we've just recently received a grant that will add an additional 1 million documents that will be available for searching online. And I have improvements for updating the website that will offer more services to assist you. We've conducted over 300,000 licensing transactions and monitored an additional 1.3 million transactions from our 5 subagents across the county. And we made payroll every 2 weeks for 1,200 employees. And that's about 500,000 transactions over those 4 years. And in elections, I've successfully conducted 16 elections, issuing 2.2 million ballots. I've introduced live stream cameras to watch how we process our ballots, opened a new vote center with expanded hours of service, so we include Saturdays and Mondays to assist the public. And we conducted the first ever state independent third-party audit of a tabulation system. Misinformation is the biggest challenge we face in elections today, and you're going to hear many wild stories from my opponent. If any of them were true, I would be on the front page of every newspaper in the state, just like former state auditor Troy Kelly. As you might realize, the job of auditor is central to county government, and the services we provide are required by so many. We were open throughout the pandemic and are the only office to return to a full pre-pandemic level of service. Now, I look forward to your questions today, and I hope this helps you cast your vote for auditor. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Next up, Mike Simpson.
I'm Mike Simpson. I'm a local kid. I'm born and raised here. Went to South Kitsap High School. Joined the Army. Went a bunch of different places around the globe. Got to see a lot of different things. Met my wife down in California. Came back up here. Came back up here in the 90s. Joined the sheriff's office. Worked at our jail. Went back overseas with the National Guard. Spent about 5 years out of 6 in Iraq. Came back to the States. Went back to work for the sheriff's office as a line deputy. Did that for several years. Went into federal service. And while I was in federal service, I was elected to the city council here in Bremerton. And that inspired me to run for auditor. Now, I've also worked for a Fortune 500 company, and I've been in charge of divisions that have had as many as 1,000 people. I've managed budgets that are much larger than the budget for the office that I'm seeking. Now, this is there's some important distinctions about me and my opponent. My opponent's mentioned a few things it's funny he mentions that he would have been on the front page of her paper. The paper that matters is the Kitsap Sun. He's been on there 3 times for things that have happened, and they weren't good things. That's the problem. Now, we'll get into that as this discussion goes on a little further. It's important to understand that our public servants are supposed to be just that, servants. Government was never meant to be our master. It's meant to simply serve us and fulfill our needs. The auditor's office is one of those places that is absolutely vitally important. It does vital functions in our community, and it's a necessary function of government. But in the same respect, it still has someone who's at the helm that does not have the heart of a servant and is not here to help fulfill and to fulfill the will of the people and serve our needs. And when you say that you've run 15 good elections and there's been 16, we know that there's a problem. Elections have to have integrity, and integrity serves as the contract between elections serve as the integrity, or integrity serves as a contract between our public servants and us, the people. If there's no integrity, we can't have trust. We can't have trust in the people that serve us or the institutions that they serve.
Thank you. Those are both our candidates for county auditor. Today we also have with us the county candidates for county commissioner. That's a lot of C's in one sentence. Let's start with Josh Hinman today.
Good morning, my name is Josh Hinman. I moved to Kitsap in 2008, but didn't move very far. I grew up in Tacoma. And I fell in love quickly. My family and I want to retire here. We want our kids to grow up here. We want them to retire here, hopefully themselves, and raise their grandkids in this community. I've been heavily involved ever since I moved out. When I moved out here in 2009, we moved out to become a director of a foster care agency and a youth services organization. That put me directly involved with people in our community who have some of the biggest needs. It also gave me an opportunity to get networked into the nonprofit community in a tangible way, in a way where we were helping real people who had significant challenges in their lives. So it put me in touch with mental health, addiction, and housing. Some of those issues that I believe are critically important for us to find great solutions for today. It also led me to the opportunity to serve on the CK Schools Budget Committee, their levy committee, and then the last few years, until this most recent year when I ran for election, I served on the county budget committee. That gave me a significant level of experience learning the county budget, the ins and outs, the massive complexity that's involved, and gives me a really good picture about how do we manage that budget going forward, especially in this time where we have, I believe, a unique crisis in front of us. We're walking into another season where fiscally the forecast doesn't look as good as it has the last few years, and it's going to require really great leadership to be able to move us forward, to have our community move forward in the midst of challenge, which I believe is still very, very possible. Throughout my career, I lived in the inner city and I volunteered with the Youth Services Organization. Then I moved on and I became a business person who managed a Fortune 500 territory. I managed Cincinnati, Columbus, and Dayton for Enterprise. I traveled and had lots of employees, a large budget. So the complexity of managing people and offices and teams is something that I'm used to. But what drove me to get involved in this position was my love for Kitsap. I believe that as significant as the challenges are that exist in our community, we have greater opportunities in front of us than we have challenges. And I want to keep us focused on the vision and the leadership of what we can do as a community to rally ourselves around this incredible place that we live. We live here because it's beautiful. We live here because the people here are incredible. We live here because we want a community that holds our values, that holds our hopes and our futures and our dreams for our kids and our families. I want it to be a place where people want to retire and they can retire. I want it to be a place where people want to raise their children. And I believe that that is all possible. And so as I look at where we are, as I look at my skill set, and I look at the opportunity, I can look back at my life and realize that I've been uniquely wired in the experiences that I've had, the opportunities that I've been given to be able to do a great job to help lead this county to a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Next up, Katie Walters.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you today. There we go. I'm seeking the office of Kitsap County Commissioner because I know I can make a difference. I care deeply about Kitsap and I care deeply about our future. I have lived here for over 30 years and I feel it's the best place to raise a family, and I really want others' families to have that same opportunity. Our family has been here for 5 generations with deep ties to the shipyard. I understand the uniqueness of the many communities that make up Kitsap because I've lived on Bainbridge, Port Orchard, Silverdale, Bremerton, Silverdale, and I've worked in nonprofits and education for over 30 years. I'm currently the Executive Director of Leadership Kitsap. Leadership Kitsap is our community's nonpartisan civic leadership program, and through Leadership Kitsap, I've had this unique opportunity to work with our community's private, public, and nonprofit leaders to really create positive change in Kitsap. One of the results of our program is really engaged community leaders that go on to volunteer, serve on boards of directors, and even serve in public office. And many are here today. So Paul and Mike's wife, Linda, Josh, all went through Leadership Kitsap. Executive directors, David Emmons, and the executive director of the United Way, Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, Kitsap Mental Health, some elected officials, including Paul, but also our prosecutors, several judges. And so you can see there's this huge network of leaders that I have built, and I have a real broad sense of what's going on in our community and built these many, many trusted relationships through this program. I've also taught many years at Olympic College, and I am a strong believer in the power of education to break down barriers to opportunity and to a better quality of life. Kitsap is experiencing a workforce crisis right now, and focused collaborative workforce strategies are needed to repair the broken systems across our economy. Olympic College is going to be a huge part of that conversation. When I see a need, I find a solution. If I have questions, or really more, if I have a concern, I pick up the phone. I have the experience needed to bring people together to create solutions to many of our community's challenges and make sure that the decision process is inclusive and transparent. I love where we live, and I want to work for you, and I look forward to expanding on these topics today. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. All right, let's jump in. I'll remind you, this is a 1-minute answer. It's rapid fire, so try and sneak it all in. You have your challenge cards. First question we're going to start over here is with our auditor's race. What is your number one priority for the auditor's office over the next 4 years? Why is that priority? Paul, let's start with you.
I think the first priority for the auditor's office is restoring the trust in elections. Elections is the foundation of our democracy, and everything else is built upon that. And so we have to work with things that I've already started putting in place. Additional audits, bringing in the public, exposing them to how we process what we do, creating that transparency, that openness in the process. And so we have cameras that help show what we're doing throughout the day. We have groups that come in regularly that are part of this process. And these additional audits that we've introduced have helped, I think, rebuild that trust. One of the recent ones was a risk limiting audit where it's actually an analysis or a random comparison of all of the ballots cast in an election to help validate that what the machine captured throughout the election was the same as what was put on the ballot.
Thank you, Paul. Mike?
So integrity, and like I said, integrity is the contract that we have with our public officials. It ensures that our trust is fulfilled in our institutions. Without integrity, we can't trust the institutions, and we can't trust the people that work in those institutions. Now, in our government, we have a lot of really good people that want to do really good things, but they have to have some direction in where they go. And it's interesting that my opponent mentioned that we live in a democracy. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic. That's why we elect representatives to represent our needs. If it was a democracy, it'd be mob rule, and everybody would make the decision about everything. That's not what we have. We need to understand what our government is and what its relationship with us. And if we restore the integrity of the institutions, then we can restore our trust in that institution and continue on. Thank you.
Thank you both. We'll start over here with Josh. What is your number one priority for Kitsap County in the next 4 years if you win the election?
I think right now everybody's thinking about cost of living. It's unaffordable to live here. People are worried that their kids and their grandkids won't be able to buy a house here. Retirees are having trouble paying the tax burden. And so we need to focus on figuring out how to get more housing affordability inside of Kitsap County. There's a lot of layers to that conversation, but the more that we can work on cost of living and housing affordability, that will make the biggest impact in our community in the next 4 years.
Thank you, Josh. Katie?
Like I mentioned before, I think one of the things we really need to work on is going to be workforce development. As I've met with different organizations and people across the county. That is the same thing that comes up over and over again, is that we need to invest in our people so that we can make our economy work again. I had a meeting last night with the president of Olympic College to work exactly on this. How can we inspire students to go into pathways that will really help create the jobs that are needed right now to make our economy get moving.
Thank you. Back to, we're going to start with Mike this time. If you had a magic wand that could accomplish anything, what would you accomplish in the auditor's office in the next 4 years?
Well, it's easy to create real transparency. I mean, when you do public records requests for our city government and for our county government for that matter, and you get thousands of documents, but you get some that are 16 pages long that are completely redacted. That's not transparency. Our government is supposed to work for us. It's not supposed to rule over us. It's not supposed to be our overlord or our master. It's our servant. And these documents that the government maintains and safeguards, they do that simply because those are our documents, not the documents that belong to the government. And one of the key functions of the auditor's office is to protect and preserve the documents that we provide to the government. Now, when you have a birth or a death or a real estate transaction, or somebody gets out of the military, and they provide those documents to the auditor's office and they protect and preserve them, they're there to provide them at any time when you need them.
Thank you, Mike. Paul?
The magic wand question is great. We all see the ads on TV. We all hear candidates talk. My using of the magic wand would be that nobody could lie in elections. If you talked about elections, you couldn't lie. If you represented yourself as a candidate, you couldn't lie. And that would rebuild the trust and the participation. The people want to be involved in this. They want to elect their officials, but they get tired of hearing the constant rhetoric that's on the TV and all that. And I think that would be the real benefit for everybody. Would be that you wouldn't be able to lie.
Thank you. I agree with you. It's a great question. Thank you, Roger, because he's brought into all of our events so far this year. And so now it looks like we start with Katie. If you had a magic wand and could accomplish anything, what one thing would you like to accomplish in the next 4 years for Kitsap County?
I would have loved to accomplish more community engagement like this. This is amazing. So many people here. Thank you so much. As I've been attending the comprehensive plan meetings, they're not as well attended as this. I think the last one we had 15 citizens that were giving input. It's so important that we have accessibility and transparency in our local government, and I think everyone should be involved and invited into the process. I think a lot of times when you make appointments to committees, people need to just be asked. And as we have this explosive growth that's going to happen, we need to make sure everyone is part of that process. Are we inviting in the tribes, the small business owners, the ports? Everyone needs to be part of that process. So if I had a magic wand, I'd have an engaged community.
Thank you, Katie. Josh?
If I had a magic wand, I'd have a community where every single person can thrive. Everybody's got a job, everybody's got a roof over their head and a place to live, everybody can put food on their table, everybody has friendship groups and community. I think the need in every single person is they want to live in a community where they're accepted, where they have friends, where they can be a part, where they can thrive personally and professionally. And so my dream, my magic wand would be that every single person in Kitsap finds that. That there are jobs out there that you want, that you're gifted at, that you're equipped for, and you can find them, you can have access to, that they pay you a livable wage, a wage that would actually help you buy the house that you dream of. That you can raise your family here, and they can be raised in a school system that you're so proud to call your school system. You can't wait to tell your friends, you need to move here because our schools and our community is so vibrant and so incredible. That you can walk along a park or a waterfront, and you can be there with your family, and you don't worry about your public safety, but you just enjoy the walk, and you take your dog, and you just, you see the movies, you see the shows, and you think, the sun is shining, and you're throwing the ball for the dog, and the kids are playing on the playground, and you just think, this is the life.
Thank you. Our next question is going to be for all four of you. How do you define economic development? And what will your role as an elected official be in supporting business? We'll start with Paul.
It's an interesting question for the auditor. I mean, really, economic development is that balance of our community and providing for the citizens and creating the infrastructure that is necessary for us to thrive and grow, like Josh was explaining. And so for me, and my job as auditor is making sure that if any of that is something that becomes a vote of the people, like, we often see where they're, wanting to do an improvement and they put it out, like in school levies, they want to increase, they want to build a new school or whatever. My job is to make sure that that can happen, that the voice of the people can be heard and that we can tabulate the votes and make sure that those things are handled properly. And so economic development for me, my piece is to make sure that if anything has to go to the vote of people, it does.
Thank you, Paul. Mike?
Thanks, that's a great question. It doesn't have a lot to do with the auditor's office because it all depends on what how you view the role of government in our lives. And with the auditor's office, the government should take a laissez-faire approach. The government should put its thumb on the scale and decide who our leaders are, or decide for us whether the issue is going to pass or fail. It should literally take a step back and allow the people to speak and voice their will. It shouldn't interfere one way or another. It shouldn't get on the bully pulpit and beat up an issue or beat down an issue. It should take a step back and allow the economy to thrive.
Thank you. John?
Economic development is the concerted actions that are taken for the purpose of economic progress in a specific area or community. It's the platform that allows for a diversity of businesses and resiliency within the business community. It's what gives you the opportunity to thrive as a business owner here. It's removing roadblocks. It's improving infrastructure. It's reducing red tape from government when possible. We have to balance public safety and care for our environment while also creating this opportunity for businesses to thrive and grow. It's bringing things like Amazon to the port of Bremerton to bring jobs and transportation and improvements to the roads. It's bringing a trade school to Kitsap County. It's a huge desire of mine that we get a trade school in Kitsap, hopefully in partnership with Olympic College or potentially with Circuit of the Northwest, but a trade school where if you're managing a business that needs to hire people from the trades, you have a workforce that's growing up in Kitsap County and is being trained here and equipped here to be a part of your team. Right now, we have so many young people who leave our community to seek opportunities elsewhere. We need to create a community where the young people stay here for their opportunity.
Thank you, Josh. Katie?
Thank you for that question. Economic development is investing in our community to enhance our quality of life. That's investing in our businesses and in our workforce. And I also think part of this is going to be really to keep that relationship, the partnership with our number one economic driver, the Navy. We need to continue working with the Navy and help and the relationship with the OC has and bringing engineers to help support the Navy and the shipyard. But in my conversation yesterday, it looks like we have huge opportunity here with bringing more nursing, not only the nursing program, but medical assistant program, surgical assistants, x-ray assistants, anesthesiologists. There's about 4 that the college is looking at. Really, they could have a really robust program here, working to bring that sort of program to Kitsap would be something that would help the entire region.
Thank you. Next question. Looks like we start with Mike. Mike, do you support the existing vote-by-mail system?
So that's an interesting question. Now, would I prefer that we vote in person and show ID? Oh, heck yeah. I was in Iraq for the first democratic elections that they held there. And they braved machine gun fire, explosions, razor wire, and people come up to their house in the middle of the night telling them, if you vote, we'll kill you. Now, these people, they went to the polling stations because they didn't have the trust in their institutions. We couldn't even pay them, we couldn't even, when they worked for us, we couldn't even pay them on a 2-week basis. We had to pay them at the end every week because they didn't have faith in the system. Now, they were in a country with a broken government, and we haven't reached that point in this country, but with the polarization that goes along with it, we may get to that point. I don't ever want to see that here. But I would absolutely prefer that we went back to a vote-in-person system. Now, vote by mail works for many, but it should be the exception, not the rule.
Paul, same question.
Yeah, I absolutely support the vote by mail system. It minimizes your exposure when you're conducting an election. It minimizes the points of entry into the process. All ballots come into our office. We validate the signatures on all of those, and then we contain the ballots in a secure environment where we count them on one machine. The polling places worked when we were a smaller community, and you had less votes, but we also discovered there were a lot of errors made during those times. The process that was used for counting the votes in the polling places and transferring that information back to the main office, adding up all of that, and then giving you the end results proved to be non-accurate and really not as efficient as we can do it today. And so vote by mail really provides us with all the securities we need to be able to conduct elections.
Thank you both. Next question, looks like we start with Katie. Katie, what do you see as the #1 priority project for Kitsap County that should be submitted to the Puget Sound Regional Council for federal funding? And why is it a priority?
Well, I think that we all can agree that Gorst, working with the Gorst Coalition, should probably be one of the #1 priority, because it's also access then to the shipyard, which is part of national security. So I'd say that would be #1, and if anyone was caught up in the tangle with the garbage truck, I think it's also an emergency thing for us. We need to have access around between Port Orchard and Silverdale and Bremerton. There needs to be an access point there, so I think that would be a priority.
Thank you, Katie. Josh, same question.
Shocker, same answer. I mean, we're in a scenario right now where Gorst is absolutely a bottleneck. It's unsafe. It affects national security. And I think, we are also on the fault line of Seattle. And so we have the situation that if an emergency happens in Kitsap County, we actually don't have the opportunity resources to get things into our community safely. And so I couldn't agree more that we have to go for a long-term fix. The challenge of the situation is right now we have a study that's going to happen, and then we're probably 10 years out from even a solution, and we haven't actually proved as a greater Seattle community that we can be proactive in our solutions. So my fear is that we'll end up doing a reactive solution again that we have to fix quickly after already doing it. So while I want to advocate for funding there, I also want to advocate that we do a great job of looking forward of where will we be in 30 to 40 years in Kitsap County. What will it look like? How do we design a solution? So it's not just fixing the Gorst curve, it's also figuring out what is an alternative route of transportation that works to get around Gorst completely.
Thank you. Back over here to the auditor's race, looks like we start with Paul. Do you have confidence in the accuracy and reliability of the voting process in Kitsap County? Please explain.
Yes, I do. So the voting process is a whole process. It starts with your voter registration database and the maintenance that we do on that to keep those records up to date so that we can conduct elections. We do about 80,000 edits per year on that database because people are moving, people are coming into the county, they're changing houses, whatever. And so there's a lot of edits that we're doing there. The system that we use for actually doing, processing the ballots, we do validations on that equipment. We check the software with a hash test, which validates basically a fingerprint of the software to confirm that the software is exactly as it was when it was certified by the EAC. All of our equipment in that room is air-gapped. Nothing is connected to the internet, so there's no communication with the outside world. There's no Bluetooth devices, no wireless, no technology at all that would inhibit the election or cause any problems in the election in any way. So I do trust the system.
Thank you, Paul. Mike, same question.
Well, that's a great question, and it depends on what you mean by accuracy. If you look at our voter database and you say that a 10% inaccuracy rate is good, then I guess it's accurate. And I saw this when I ran for the city council. I validated the voter database by doing canvassing in my district and found that there was a significant error rate because people move, people get married, people change their name, people die, and people become ineligible to vote. We have a mobile society, and there's a lot of information out there that we can use to help validate our voter database, but we don't do enough of that. And we have good people that work in the office, but we don't use all the information that's available to validate that database. Now, when it comes to our vote tabulation system, there are inherent problems with what happens. There are inherent problems with the system that we have in place. And the notion that it's 100% secure is a fallacy. I worked in a secure compartmentalized information facility in the military, and they had a much higher security.
Thank you both. Back over here, it looks like we're starting with Josh. So I have multiple questions here that are focused around growth. The Growth Management Act, and what needs to change in order to have more effectiveness here in our county, as well as affordable housing, as well as tools from Olympia to better manage growth. So let's just talk about growth and go from there.
Well, I think growth is a huge conversation right now in our community. Why? One is we live here. A lot of us live here because we love the environment. We love walking around the outdoors. We don't want to have homes every single place that we go in Kitsap. Yet, we're a growing community. One of the problems of being a great community is that you will grow. People want to move here. They want to live here. And so it's estimated that we need 25,000 homes by 2036. We're already 7,000 housing units short of where we need to be today in our community. And so we are going to need growth. And so what do you do with that when you talk about the urban growth area, the Growth Management Act? You build the high density housing along your core. So where you have infrastructure, where you have public transportation, people can go to the grocery store. So places like downtown Silverdale, places like Port Orchard, Bremerton, those are great communities for us to build more of a mixed commercial use, some shops and some restaurants on the bottom floor, but the condos or apartments above it. And we can build some of the housing units, and at our core, we do have a supply-demand problem in Kitsap County. Lack of supply is going to drive up demand and prices.
Thank you. Katie, basically, same topic.
Yes, all of that. So I want to promote smart growth, the development that is environmentally sensitive, economically viable, community-oriented, and sustainable. And again, to promote that compact, transit-oriented urban community. So we're putting density where density belongs and preserving our beautiful rural areas. I think that's super important. Expanding where we can recreate, and the parks is really important, and it's keeping the density where it belongs. I appreciate upzoning and infill, like right now, what Bremerton is doing. You see a lot of building in the urban core. I think that's going to be important. I like the opportunities for mixed use. I also think when we're thinking ahead with growth, especially in the Silverdale area, we have a huge opportunity with our Silverdale waterfront to make that a really unique community where we can preserve
You'll have more time, I promise. So let's go back over here. It looks like we start with Mike. Do you think there's a better way to conduct the election process? Explain your response.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the best way to conduct elections is in person. If you have enough polling stations and enough employees to make it happen, that's the best way to do it, because the people see immediately what the tabulation of the votes are. But we don't wait weeks on end to find out that there's a hanging chad or some other nonsense that dissolves the faith in the institutions. I mean, we have to be able to trust our government. That's the bottom line. If we can't trust our government, then we'll end up abrogating it. And we need to be able to trust the institutions. And there is a better way, and we should be able to do a better way. We should be able to do it with a hybrid system. We can use the tabulation machines we have and still do in-person voting.
Thank you, Mike. Paul?
Can you reread the question, please?
Do you think there's a better way to conduct the election process? Please explain.
The election process is a better way to get more people to vote. And, we got to figure out how to do that. But, we do have voting in person for those people that still want to vote in person. We offer vote centers with multiple days to be able to go in there, and we can handle all of your voting needs and services right there. But as far as a better way, I mean, vote by mail has proven to enhance voting. It has proven to increase voter turnout. It is proven to be more accessible for the community. We have people that can't get out, that going to a voting center on one day isn't going to be efficient. And we already pay enough taxes. The idea of opening up another 100 vote centers and then trying to staff those vote centers with enough people to properly conduct the election. Staffing is going to be our biggest challenge as we look into the future with elections. We have people that work in our vote centers now that love what they do, but they're being attacked by the public for what it is they're doing, and they're no longer proud to say they do it.
Thank you both. Looks like I'm starting over here with Katie this time. We're going to do a two-part question here because that's how this goes. There's much talk about Silverdale and or Kingston incorporating. Yes or no answer, do you support this?
Yes or no? Right now, no.
Okay. Josh?
If the voters vote for it,
Okay.
yes or no?
Next question, because it goes along with this, and we'll stay with Katie here. How will Silverdale and Kingston incorporating affect Kitsap County's funding model, and what is your plan for that eventuality?
Well, that's a big question. So I think it's something that we need to plan for in the long range. Right now, with inflation and all the building that's going on, we need to have the infrastructure in place. So once that's in place, though, I do believe that Silverdale incorporating would benefit the county because I think that's one of the goals of the county really is to shrink, right? So with the unincorporated areas, and so it would benefit because then Silverdale would have it'd be self-sufficient, and so then the county could worry about the other unincorporated areas. But it's long range, not now.
Thank you, Katie. Josh?
I think what people are really asking when they talk about should Silverdale incorporate is, do we love Silverdale? Do we feel like we're supported in Silverdale? Do we get the services we want? So as long as we as a county can provide the services necessary, I don't think people actually care if we incorporate. On the flip side, people say, well, 80% of the tax revenue comes from Silverdale. So if they leave, we're going to be toast. We're not going to have the money we need. Well, if 80% of the revenue comes, a lot of the expenses also are incurred in Silverdale. So I don't think it will be as crippling as people believe it will be. So that is probably a security for the county as far as when you look at the budget and you go through and you figure out where we're spending all of our money. It is a balanced equation more than people believe it is. So I don't think it's going to have the dramatic effect that people believe it will have if Silverdale does incorporate. Now on the flip side, I actually think that again, gardens grow, right? So you tend to garden, you trim the weeds, you pick the weeds out, and the garden grows more beautifully. So we need to look at Silverdale and say, how can we grow strategically? How can we make it the best place to raise a family? How can you love it here? And then we're going to be fine.
So there's additional questions around this same topic. So we're just going to stay right here. And I'm going to kind of go off of something that you said because one of the questions was around homelessness and county support and things like that. But you said that it depends on, does Silverdale feel supported? Can you answer that question? Does Silverdale currently feel supported?
I do not believe they do. I think currently Silverdale feels like they're under-supported as far as resources. An example would be, we have a sheriff department that's not even open in our community. You have to drive down to Port Orchard when you want anything that has to do with the county. So we're building a new sheriff department. It's going to go up just above the hospital. I think it's a great opportunity for us, and I've already started the conversation with several of the county offices. Can we put inside a generalist who can be a receiving opportunity for people who would come in there to drop off a permit or to file some paperwork for the auditor's office or one of those things? But how do we have that available in Silverdale? I think things like that would tell the community that actually we value you, we're taking care of you, we're here. You could put a boardroom there that people from the community could use. And so there is an opportunity for us to ramp up what it looks like to be supported in Silverdale. The other side is when it takes 30 or 45 minutes for the sheriff department to get to where you are, it doesn't feel supported. So there was an incident that was out at Wildcat Lake. It took the sheriff deputy 48 minutes to get to Wildcat Lake to help somebody who was calling for help with somebody who was mentally ill. And so we have to better support that community.
Thank you, Josh. Katie?
I disagree. I believe that Silverdale does feel supported. If it didn't feel supported, then I think there would be more of a call to incorporate. I think that they have a really robust Central Kitsap Community Council that's representative of the CK core, and a lot's happening in Silverdale, and a lot's being paid attention to what's going on, the building that's going on there. And the hospital and what that's bringing in, the businesses that are being attracted to Silverdale, and some of the opportunities that are happening around Old Town Silverdale with the development of Strawberry Creek Village, with the brand new library in Silverdale, the new ZK middle school and high school. I really think that Silverdale feels that it is supported and that it's an up and coming part of our community and a place that everyone should be proud of.
Thank you both. We have a challenge. Josh, 1 additional minute.
Yeah, just like to add in, when you have a homeless park that shows up right next to the YMCA and you have people who feel unsafe walking the Clear Creek Trail, it doesn't feel supported. People are expressing at every doorbell that I go, in every room that I'm in, they're saying, I feel unsafe in my community. And when people are saying that, it doesn't feel like support. It doesn't feel like they're getting what they want. And so I think families want to be able to have their kids walk home from the bus stop. I think people want to be able to go to the YMCA without fear that there's going to be danger next door. I think when you have a hospital system that's crumbling and in the news every single day, I think those are all evidences of we are feeling under-supported and under-resourced in our core community where 80% of our revenue comes from. People right now in Central Kitsap, man, when I'm talking to folks, I say the same phrase, can't disagree more. I am hearing every single day, we do not feel safe, we do not feel supported, it's hard to do business here, the challenges are too great, what's your plan, how can you help, we need help right now. So if I'm listening to the consumers, that's what I'm hearing.
Thank you. Next question, over back to our auditor's race, start with Paul. Paul, what improvements would you pursue to better support the process of document recording in the auditor's office?
We're looking at a new system that will provide a lot more services to the users on the outside, so that you don't have to travel from Bainbridge Island over an hour to come down and get a certified document or get those records. We have a grant that's going to add an additional 1 million historical documents to our system, which will make it able to, for you to be able to search those from home and make copies. Our system is set up, we do on-the-spot recording. So you bring it in, we record it, we're done. It's indexed at the time that you record it, and it's available for search immediately. So, the system works without fail as far as that goes, and provides what the public needs to get those documents immediately. And title companies rely on that, our ability to provide them service. We do e-recordings. Most of our recordings are actually e-recordings, about 80% of those. And COVID expanded that, and we had a whole lot more users come on. And then we found other ways through COVID to also offer services with Dropboxes and things to speed up the recording process.
Thank you, Paul. Mike?
With the advent of technology, there are a lot of things that we can use to help speed up the process and make it so that those documents that need to be recorded can be put in place better. And like Paul stated, with the advent of COVID, we've seen a greater reliance on those technologies and a greater willingness for our institutions or our government to actually look at the technologies and integrate them into our systems. And this is an easy way that we can help with the process.
Thank you. Back over to the Commissioner's race. Looks like we start with Katie. I have multiple questions around healthcare, access to healthcare, and concerns around St. Michael's Medical Center. How would you respond to access to healthcare in Kitsap County?
I know there's been a lot of concern and a lot of bad press right now for St. Michael Medical Center, and as my response to that, I called up Chad Melton and had lunch with him. We had an over an hour and a half lunch so I could discuss the situation that's going on at the hospital and our access to care, because I think it's a super concern. And again, it falls back to workforce. That it's not a lack of doctors, and it's a lack of nurses, it's more of a lack of support staff, that they just don't have the people. And it's not that they're not throwing money at it. They're throwing a lot of money. In fact, they are losing money this year because there was a nurse he mentioned that made over $250,000 last year. So the problem really is attracting, retaining, and getting that workforce for the medical assistants is huge. You can't even get, if you have somebody, they have the doctors, you can't get an appointment because there's not enough room to get in.
Thank you, Katie. Josh?
So there's a principle that I think is important we live by. One is don't create long-term solutions in a short-term crisis. Right now, the hospital's in a short-term crisis. It is a staffing issue. I'm glad you met with Chad. I'm meeting with Chad today at 1 o'clock to ask some of the similar questions to say, what is it from your perspective? The alternative is we do as a community have to prioritize healthcare and access to healthcare. I think one of the things that I'm hearing is that we want access to secular healthcare, to end-of-life services and things like that in our community. So an option for us is a public hospital district. Harrison was also, or St. Michael was also supposed to be building, they have on hold 74 beds with the state, and so they've not yet announced whether they're still going to do that in 2024. They've been building a clinic or a emergency services entry point off of Kitsap Way, but that's stalled and they haven't been doing the active work on that. And that was supposed to open in 2023, and it doesn't look like it's going to open on time. This is a national security issue, so if our Navy cannot get healthy and stay healthy, this is going to be for us a national security issue. It's unsafe staffing when you have 5 nurses in an emergency room with 40 beds and the ratio is supposed to be 1 to 4.
Thank you, Bo.
It's a challenge.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Challenge. Katie, 1 additional minute.
I'm not sure that creating a hospital district would make a difference when if they wouldn't be able to build it and afford to build it, to tax the community even more to build something where you are not able to staff it. I don't think that would be the solution right now. And again, you just have to ask yourself, what problem are you trying to solve?
Thank you, Katie. Next question, we're going to stay right here, so looks like we start with Josh. Josh, what is the biggest need in the sheriff's office and how do you intend to help meet that need?
The sheriff's office needs to be adequately resourced. So an example is they have had in their budget for many years to be able to buy body cameras. They haven't yet been able to make that purchase. They say it's a storage issue with the sheriff's department. So, you know, we need to actually get that purchase done. I think it's a holdup on the storage of the data that they get. So that's one. Second is they do need more officers. They haven't budgeted, unfortunately, to make the budget work in 2023. We've unfunded the positions that were unfilled across the county. So that's the only way, because of the fiscal forecast, we can actually make the budget work in 2023. So some of those positions are going to be gone. If you ask, you know, probably the unpopular opinion, and I'm not a pro-tax person in any way, shape, or form, but the unpopular opinion is if we want to get them to the level of officers on the street, sheriff deputies on the street that they desire, and at the equal pay to what they can get in communities around us, we probably are going to have to introduce a public safety levy at some point in time and let the community decide if that's something that they want.
Thank you, Josh. Katie,
Can you repeat the question?
what is the biggest need in the sheriff's office and how do you intend to help meet that need?
Again, biggest need, workforce. So when I started this process, the sheriff's office was down 40 positions, then it was 35, and now today there are 15, about 50 to 20. I'm endorsed by Sheriff Easy as well as retired Sheriff Simpson, and as what I hear from John is they need manpower, woman power, and what you can do about it, I've already done something about it. I'm on the Committee for Organizational Leadership Resource Management at Olympic College, and I facilitated a meeting between the college and the sheriff's office, and they actually have a program that is going to be starting soon at Olympic College, a criminology program, where they can actually get a degree. It'll end up being an organizational leadership degree with an emphasis in criminology. And the sheriff's office as well can send people through this program when they need people to promote. And so they can encourage people, we have people right in our community that can become officers.
Thank you both. Next question, staying right here, looks like it starts with Katie. Kitsap County Commissioners sit on a number of boards and committees. What specific board or committee do you look forward to being part of? Please explain.
There's so many, I'm trying to think which one I'd enjoy. I think I would really enjoy most of them. I think the one I would really enjoy would be transportation. I think that is going to be such a need in our community right now. I've been in contact with Kitsap Transit. Sunday service will be becoming restored shortly. They've hired enough people that are in training right now, so I know that's been a huge concern for access for our community. We need to keep people moving. I think there's huge opportunity with the ferry system to connect our communities beyond just Seattle, but interconnect our communities, kind of bringing back that mosquito fleet idea, and really coordinating with the state ferry system and Kitsap Transit. I just know over the weekend getting to the Mariners game, like, oh my gosh, how crowded that was, and then also always having the time getting back here, right? So I don't know how many people ever saw it end of the game, so transportation.
Thank you, Katie. Josh, same question.
Well, my background and experience has a lot to do with mental health and addiction, and so for me, I really want to get involved in Kitsap Health, but also the Salish Behavioral board that oversees our community. I think mental health and addiction services in Kitsap County is one of the most crucial things for us to improve on if we want to improve the quality of life of the people who live here, if we want to provide housing for folks who are struggling with mental health and addiction, if we want to get to action-based, real solutions for people who are stuck in mental health crisis. Right now, we are struggling as a community to solve the mental health crisis. It is my experience. It's what I've done for the last 15 years. It's where I have a huge passion. I think if we can help people get healthy, the concept of the rising tide lifts all boats. The more and more we can help people get healthy in our community, the more we will see many of the problems we're struggling with. Crime, housing, jobs, those will all start to get better. Healthy people get jobs. Healthy people can afford a place to live. Healthy people have healthy families. So I want to focus on the health of the people in Kitsap.
Thank you both. Next question. Looks like we start with Josh. Do you support a significant increase in impact fees to fund infrastructure needs in Kitsap? Explain your response.
No, I don't. I think impact fees are a challenge. We need to pay, so support an increase is the reason I say no. They've just got increased massively. So increasing them more right now, I think would be a big challenge. Now, when we do a development, does it have impact? Does it? Yes. And so we do need to figure out how we manage that growth. I think that if you do too much taxation on the front end, what you end up getting is people who won't do development at all. And so it's going to be a really big struggle when we want to have more housing, we want apartment complexes and condos and places for people to do business. The more that we raise the fees, if we make it unaffordable, we won't be able to have more doing it here. I have a friend who was going to put a business right there on Viking Way, and he wanted to do a food truck spot, and it was $228,000 in impact fees alone for him to create a spot that they could have 6 food trucks and an indoor spot to eat. And it was going to bring vibrant businesses to Kitsap. It was going to bring people a spot for you to go and enjoy with your family. It was going to bring tax dollars into the county, and so you have to manage this. Tax dollars coming in as well as impact fees. There is some long-range things that you receive when development happens. You can count on that.
Thank you, Josh. Katie? Do you support a significant increase in impact fees to fund infrastructure needs in Kitsap County? Please explain.
No, I don't support a significant impact fees, but there is such a need for impact fees because we need our growth to pay for growth. It shouldn't be on all of us. It should be the development that helps pay for the roundabouts and the sewer and all the infrastructure that we need. So I don't believe that we need it's significant. We're going to have to figure out partnerships so that and grants that we can help pay for this. But really, this infrastructure that impact fees pays for needs to be paid for in advance so we can build all of this out before we build up.
Thank you. Challenge, Josh.
I just want to point out this is a common misconception. Developers do not pay for impact fees. We do. When we buy the house, when we buy the product of the business, when we go shopping, if there's an impact fee that hits in a community, you build 100 houses and you charge a $300,000 impact fee, every single one of those houses is going to cost more. They're all going to cost $30,000 more because the developer is always 100% without a doubt going to pass along every single fee to the end buyer. And so we have to remember that as a community that when we say, hey, we're going to give this fee to a developer, it is not going to the developer, it's going to the home buyer. Housing affordability and cost of living is one of the number one crises in Kitsap County. So if we want to focus on housing affordability, we have to be cautious about how many impact fees we want to pass on to the end buyer and the end purchaser of the service.
Thank you both. Next question. Looks like we start with Mike. Mike, what improvements to the auditor's website do you see a need for to better serve the public? Please explain.
Well, that's great, and thanks for getting us back into the mix. I was just talking to Paul about how we should probably get a cup of coffee. But the questions have been great. So what should be done to the auditor's website? Well, it should be accurate. We can look at the PCO listing that they have on the auditor's website right now, and this is just kind of feeds into accuracy and accountability and integrity and transparency. With the PCOs, these are the precinct committee officers. These are folks who are involved in the party and involved in politics, and they represent each one of the precincts in our county. There's several hundred of them, but it's a microcosm of our voter database. And right now, PCOs that are listed on there there are many that are not active as PCOs, have moved out of the area, and don't really represent the precincts that they live in. And this is something that should absolutely be accurate. It should be something that the auditor's office should have a firm grasp on.
Thank you, Mike. Paul, same question?
Well, the website as a whole contains a lot of information that serves all people. We have the ability to get your marriage license on our website. We have the ability to search documents. You can look at various things related to finance, and you can do elections-related stuff. With a lot of the increased demand we've had over election information, we put a lot of the certifications and processes that we do in elections on that site, so it's easy for you to get to. As far as the PCO thing, and I can help explain this, when you're elected as a PCO, your term is for 2 years. And all we do is conduct the election and report who actually won. But the parties have a lot of responsibility in that PCO update, because they're the ones that appoint PCOs when there isn't a PCO in precinct. And when they make a change and appoint a PCO, that PCO, then they need to tell us so that we can get that out into the list. But when you're a PCO for 2 years. So if you move, it's your responsibility to tell the party you've moved. Please, don't make me your PCO anymore, and find somebody to appoint in the place.
Thank you. We're going to stay right here.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Paul, I kind of been wrapping all of these with there's many things on the national stage that affect our local elections. I think right now we see nationally that there's distrust in our election process. Among those items, do you believe there was fraud in Kitsap County's election process?
No, there was not fraud in our election process. And it's important to know that the things that you hear nationally, every state has their own rules and laws around how you can vote. And in Washington, we have an 18-day voting window. In Washington, once you cast your vote is cast. It doesn't matter if you're still alive on election day or not. Once we've received your ballot, you're good. In other states, you have to be alive on election day still before your ballot is going to count. We have all kinds of protocols in place. We do all kinds of audits. We certify the equipment. Everything we do is done in front of the public with poll watchers and observers from the parties under the microscope of cameras. And all of these hand counts and everything that we do prove that the system is doing what the system is supposed to do. You hear a lot of stories about what happened, but the reality, if you stay around long enough to listen, you'll find out that really that wasn't the thing.
Thank you, Mike. Same question.
So do I think that there's fraud in the system? Well, of course, there's people. I mean, my experience with working with the sheriff's office taught me that everybody lies. They just lie to some degree, and that's why we have to have people with integrity in our elected positions and in our administration. Now, people will tell you that there's no fraud, but that's, well, I guess the best term is gorilla dust. And there is fraud. When we see it, we should hold those people accountable. And if, for example, last year, one of the city council candidates offered to pay people to vote. This is a clear violation of our state law, and it's a clear violation of federal law. And when the auditor's office becomes aware of it, they're supposed to contact the canvassing board, contact the candidate, and then take the information to the prosecutor's office. And that wasn't done.
The challenge card.
Challenge. Thank you, Paul. You give one additional.
In the case of the Bremerton City Council, all of the procedures were followed. Canvass board was notified, the prosecutor was notified, and the prosecutor then notified the Bremerton Police Department. Now, what he's going to tell you is that there was no document created by the prosecutor's office that was a decline to charge. And he'd be familiar with those, but The decline to charge document is only created when there is a request by a law enforcement, but when there's a report submitted to the prosecutor by a law enforcement agency and the prosecutor refuses to charge because there isn't enough evidence, there isn't the proof. It's basically a training tool for law enforcement so that they understand that they failed to meet the requirements of having somebody prosecuted. Now, Jeff Campbell never did violate the law. He never did what he was planning to do. And that is not against the law when you don't break the law to begin with. And so it's important to understand that, that we have laws, we have procedures, and they were all followed.
Thank you, Paul. Mike, one additional minute?
So it's important to understand that we have written law, and the written law is pretty clear. When it says that the auditor shall contact the canvassing board, that is step A. The procedure has to be followed verbatim. When it says that the auditor shall contact the candidate, that's step B. That's clear. When the law says the auditor shall contact the prosecutor's office and ensure that the information is conveyed to them, that's clear. Now, Paul has stated that the order wasn't followed. He didn't follow the process the way that it was supposed to be done. He went to the prosecutor's office first, then the canvassing board, and then contacted the candidate. Now, if you're the auditor and the law is clear and it's black and white, it doesn't have gray area. It's either a yes or a no, a 1 or a 0. You follow the process that's in place and you follow the rules. And it's clear that our auditor did not do that. Now, this decline to prosecute statement is something that's issued out by the prosecutor's office.
Thank you, Mark. We're back over here at the Commissioner's race. Looks like we start with Katie. What makes you a better county commissioner candidate than your opponent? Please explain.
Better, I don't know if I necessarily know justice or just say better, but I can say that I'm a seasoned executive in the nonprofit sector. I have built and grown organizations from my time at Olympic College, where I helped to develop curriculum, to actually helping bring the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art to our community and developing some of its first programs, to working with Kitsap Regional Library to bring a library to Silverdale, which I've worked on since 2012, as well as developing programs for Leadership Kitsap, and especially during the time of pandemic, where we turned off our traditional program and supported our community leaders and how they were serving through the pandemic. I'm an expert in creating civic collaboration and engagement, and I've really focused the last decade on bringing people together to meet the challenges of Kitsap County.
Thank you, Katie. Josh.
I'm a proven leader. I can go action-based solutions. I'm creative. I know how to dive into issues and actually bring solutions out of them. So, for example, we have a massive homelessness issue in the nation. 50% of the entire homeless population in the nation is formerly a foster child. So I got together with a group of business owners in January. We started putting together a program to hire youth who are coming out of the foster system to make sure that they had jobs, places to live, and people who would train and raise them up. Because we need a workforce, and 2, we need places for foster youth to go when they graduate so they don't experience homelessness. Because when they experience it for the first time, they're more likely to go homeless again. And so it's that track record of bringing creativity to leadership that I've done my entire career. I've done big business. I served on the county budget committee for many years. I was on the board of Kitsap Community Resources in our community. I've coached nonprofits, I've coached businesses, I've been a nonprofit executive. Now the time is for me to put my nonprofit leadership, my private enterprise experience, and combine that in government, because I think when the 3 of those work well together, we can solve a lot of problems.
Thank you, too. And thank you to all 4 of our candidates for answering our questions today. That does bring the Q&A section to a close. Now it's time for our closing statements. You will each get 2 minutes. We'll start on this end with Katie Walters.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, first to the Chamber for having this forum today, and for all of you for being here. I am passionate about fostering and empowering women leaders, and I decided the best way to do this was to lead by example, so that's why I'm here. I've lived in our community for over 30 years. I'm a seasoned executive in the nonprofit sector. I'm an expert in creating civic and engagement and collaboration. And I have been actively participating in many community meetings beyond the election cycle, such as the chamber meetings for years. I was part of the Kitsap Pandemic Coalition, that were the response for our community during COVID. I've regularly attended the Central Kitsap Community Council meetings, zoomed in for commissioner meetings, Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council meetings, Kitsap Public Health Board meetings. And I've been meeting with our mayors, the president of St. Michael's Medical Center, the president of Olympic College, the executive director of Kitsap Mental Health, the chief of patrol, the sheriff's office, county officials, small business owners, parents, seniors, veterans, teachers. And I know Kitsap, and I am ready to serve. I look forward to using my experience and my connections to create solutions to our most pressing issues. And let's solve our workforce crisis. Growth is coming if we like it or not. Let's work together to create community-based solutions for sustainable growth and development that really balances our beautiful natural environment and our high quality of life here in Kitsap. And know that I am doing this for you. I'm a servant leader at heart, and I want to serve. And I would be honored to receive your vote. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Katie. Josh.
First, thanks to the Cloverleaf for hosting. I just love the small businesses in our community care enough to open up rooms like this where we can all come and experience and have an opportunity to listen and to learn and to make an informed vote. I love Kitsap County. I want to serve in Kitsap County because I want my family to grow up, to stay here. I want my kids to grow up here and stay. I want my grandkids to be born here. We bought a house that we would retire in. I have experience in this lane. I've been working on the county budget committee for 3 years. It's the #1 policy document that the county commissioners manage in a year is their budget. The #1 place they spend their time is on land use, and I have extensive experience in land use, and I understand that world and how to talk with developers and how to plan and how to do strategic growth in a way that we can balance what we have as a community where we love the environment, but also get the growth that we need in our community to sustain our future. I'm endorsed by Ed Wolfe. He has the job now. He's looked at my experience and he said, you can do this job. I'm a business leader. I'm a nonprofit executive, and I want to bring those things together to combine to help government create the best solutions. Government on its own is not the best person to solve the problems. Government has to work with nonprofits and private enterprise to address the challenges in our community. But government does have to lead it. And they need a leader to the community that can rally the community, that can excite the community, and that can get the community motivated and driven to actually make this the best place to live on the peninsula. Kitsap County is uniquely beautiful. We have so many things to be grateful for. I love it here. I want to stay here. I want to serve here. I know I have the leadership. I know I have the skill sets. I know I have the ideas and the way to make creative-based solutions. If you give me the job, I can do it for you to help your family also want to stay here as bad as I do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh. Mike.
Again, Cloverleaf, it's a great venue. Thanks for having it here, and thanks to the staff that's helped put this together. And thanks for having a forum like this where we can help inform voters. Honestly, the auditor's race is not a sexy race. It's not supposed to be sexy. It's supposed to be like watching paint dry. Because most of the functions that it does are they just happen. And they should just happen. They should just function. We should have our trust in our elected officials to oversee the system. And one of the ways that we can trust our officials is look at their leadership ability and look at their management style. In the military, they taught us that if you're the captain of the ship that runs aground, you're the one that's held accountable for it. And when there's a PDC complaint that comes up about running your campaign as the auditor, it should not happen in the first week to find out that you violated the PDC rules by claiming your office is in your county office. And then if you're the one that's in charge of the campaign, you shouldn't throw your staff under the bus and say, well, it's their fault, they made mistakes. You should just come clean and say, yeah, that's on me. It's something that I'm accountable for. And if there's mistakes that are made in your office and they jeopardize not just one election but two, you shouldn't blame your staff and say that there were personnel issues that made things happen. You should just be open, honest, and transparent about it, and say that it's on you. Now, why is this important? Because these things happen. And these things happen in the last 3.5 years. And these are things that shouldn't have happened. We deserve better. And we should have better. And that's why I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you, Mike. Paul?
Thank you for your time this morning, and I've enjoyed answering your questions. Like I said in the beginning, experience matters. And it's clear that I have the experience and integrity to represent you as auditor. Now more than ever, we need transparency and accountability in elections, and an elected official who represents all citizens of Kitsap County. My track record is proof of my integrity, accountability, and transparency. The many endorsements I have from elected officials from both parties, as well as the endorsements from the public, show I represent all. I enjoy the work I do representing you, and I expect to be held accountable for my actions, not false accusations. I sit before you today asking for your support. I've advanced all aspects of the office, oversaw the largest election in Kitsap County history, and maintained full office services through a pandemic. I understand my role as auditor and what the voters and citizens expect. We strive to exceed expectations, and our actions show we care. I encourage you to go back and read the articles in the local papers that they've run, and you will see I have integrity, am accountable, and built an office around transparency. Whereas my opponent, who doesn't care who votes, as long as the results are what he wants, will try to deceive and mislead to get what he wants. Take a cue from the voters of Bremerton and say no to his games. There is a reason why so many members of the Bremerton City Council endorsed me. Thank you again for your time, and I ask for your vote this November.
I want to thank everybody for their time today. I want to thank all of you for coming out today. More importantly, I want to thank all of our candidates for the civil discourse we've had throughout this entire process. It's part of what makes me proud to live in this county, to see that while we may all not agree on things, we can all shake each other's hand and walk away at the end of the day. So, if you will join me in our round of applause for all of our candidates. With that, we'd like to thank you all for coming out and invite you all back again next Tuesday, same bat channel, same bat place, where next week we will see the position 2 candidates for the 23rd, 26th, and 35th legislative district down in Olympia, as well as be on the lookout. Between now and the next time we meet, you should see your ballot in your mailbox. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next week.